Hi, we are still working on practice exam 4. We're up to question 13, which is doing some transactions for bad debt expense using the allowance method. Alright, so in this example, it's pretty similar to doing direct method. The difference is you set up an allowance and you write everything off to the allowance, and at the end of the year you're going to have to set up a new allowance again. Alright, so just going in chronological order. April 12, wrote off the account of Dwayne Wade. Okay, so $89.78. It seems like Dwayne Wade could afford $89.78, but okay, well, maybe not. Maybe he lost the bill. Maybe something like that. Alright, so on 4/12, of course, the allowance this time, not expense. Allowance for doubtful accounts, right? And account receivable from Wade, $89.78. Alright, that's easy. Writing them off is pretty easy. Received $4,000 as partial payment for Christian Leitner. Wrote off the remaining balance as uncollectible. Alright, so here's that deal. We got to figure out, well, if he gave us $4,000 in cash, but he owed us $8,200, what is the amount we're actually writing off? So $8,200 minus $4,000 equals $4,200. So $8,200 is the account receivable that we're reducing. $4,000 is the cash, and $4,200 is going to the allowance. And that's September 22. Cash, $4,000. Allowance for doubtful accounts, $4,200, and account receivable Leitner is, of course, $8,200. Alright, so I wrote him off. So Dwayne Wade came in and paid off his debt. So that's awesome. He seems more like he would pay off a debt than Christian Leitner. Okay, so $89.78 cash came in, but this receivable is not on the books. So we have to put it back on the books, which means reversing this entry up here. Okay, so reverse the entry, then do the cash. This is 10/30. Alright, so reversing the entry, just like it says, this becomes a debit, this becomes a credit. And $89.78. Now we get to put the cash to the account receivable. Alright, $89.78. Oh, that kind of goes up a little higher. $89.78, $89.78. Alright, so that's that. We reinstated. The end of the year came around, we looked at the books and we said, who else might not be on here? May as well get them off. And we got Rivera, McKenzie, Benavides, and Peralta. And it says record as all one entry. So that means we need to add these up to find out what we're charging to the allowance. And that is $16,500. Alright, so all of those, $16,500, and then we write each account receivable off separately. Alright, so allowance for bad account, doubtful accounts. Allowance for doubtful accounts. $16,500. Alright, and then we write off each one. So we got account receivable Rivera, $6,700. Credit. McKinsey, $2,700 credit. Benavides, $5,100. $5,100, and Peralta, $2,000. All right, so we wrote those off. Now, because this is the allowance method, we do need to go in and at the end of the year set up for next year a new allowance. And the book discusses several ways of calculating it, but I'm just going to tell you the amount and you have to be able to set up the allowance. So the adjustment's going to be $25,000, right? So in this case, that's still $1,231, and this is where we take our expense. Bad debt expense, $25,000, and then allowance for doubtful accounts, $25,000, and that's it. Now we've set up this allowance, and then for the rest of the next year, we'll debit, right? So it's got a $25,000 credit balance, and we'll reduce it by debiting it. But we've taken our expense up front. That's the difference, and that's the allowance method. All right, good luck on your allowance method question.